Hello everyone, I am together with Wendy Stacey, who is a great astrologer from the UK. Hi Wendy,
Hi, Öner. Thank you for having me on. Thank you.
it's great to have you. Thank you very much for attending. So, I will first introduce you with your permission. Wendy Stacey is the principal of Mayo School of Astrology and president of Astrological Association. She has written numerous articles for the Astrological Journal, the Mountain Astrologer, the Career Astrologer, and the Evolving Astrologer, many of which have also been published on astra.com. She is the author of Consulting with Astrology and Uranus Square Pluto and has contributed to New Generation and the Professional Astrologer and Bitcoin. In 2014, Wendy received the Charles Harvey Award for outstanding service to astrology in the United Kingdom. She is also a lecturer in the MA program in Cultural Astronomy and Astrology at the University of Wales. For 4 years, Wendy led the mentoring programs for the Organization for Professional Astrology, OPA, co-taught the Ethics and Diversity program for ISAR, and currently leads a research program for NCGR. So you can reach Wendy with her email, wendy@myoschoolastrology.com, and website wendystacy.com. So great to be with you once again,
Thank you,
Wendy.
Öner.
And we will have you just 10 days later in Istanbul. You will visit our school, so we are very excited about that.
Yes, I am very excited as well. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I will ask you something about daily
Mm.
transits and nowadays what we are having. So we are going through a significant period where slow moving planets are changing signs. Looking at the planetary transits of that period, which do you think has the greatest impact? For example, the transit of Saturn and Neptune through Aries, or the transit of Uranus through Gemini, or Pluto through Aquarius. What do you think?
Wow. I think they're all important. Of course, I think the more outer planets like Pluto and Aquarius is going to dictate, generations, huge shifts, as they all will. But what's so special is that they're all in this, sextile, double sextile trine for the until for the next sort of 6 years. So they sort of it's very hard to unpick one without the other. So I sort of think that they're all going to have a very big impact. We have not had this configuration in air and fire for thousands of years in this particular arrangement. So it's going to be different. It's
Yeah,
going to be fast.
yeah,
Even Jupiter Saturn conjunctions in 2020 changing signs. This is all supporting that. So we're now moving from the material, the physical, to more cerebral, to more ideas, concepts,
yeah,
and we see this now with AI.
yeah,
And we see it with people getting lighter,
yeah.
that sort of thing. So uh, it's going to have a huge impact on human evolvement, I believe. And it's going to impact us all personally, of course, as well.
Yeah, especially in July, we have Uranus, Pluto, Neptune, Saturn, or even Jupiter. They have all contact aspect with each other. Do you find this July a bit special?
Yes, I think it's very special. I think this is there's such big change. Um, Saturn and Neptune are in cardinal. So that is where I think you often see the change. But it's going to be in the backdrop of Pluto and Aquarius. So it is going to be all things, all things AI, all things about democracy,
Yeah,
and everything about personal freedoms, human rights, copyright,
yeah,
original intellectual property, things like that. But it will be the Neptune Saturn, the cardinal, that sort of pivot that change, I
yeah.
think. And the Uranus and Gemini is just going to, it's going to explode in terms of information, data management, regulation and things like that. So it's going to, and it's going to explode, I think. So July is special. We already can see it building. There's court cases been going on with AI and things like that. And even though people's own personal lives, ChatGPT has become people's best friends, people use it every day, all day, for everything. So we can see a sort of a dependency growing on that. But we have to find a way to be bigger than AI. We have to find a way to utilize it so we can, do what we want to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially around the 18th of this month, we have Jupiter in the 4th degree of Leo and Pluto for Aquarius, Neptune for Aries, and of course, what else? Uranus in for Gemini. So 4 all indicates number 4. What do you think about that?
Well, on a social level, we can see the kings of lands, that sort of Leo Aquarius opposition. We keep asking, is the king going to fall? Is the king going to be, is it a fall from grace, that Pluto Leo opposition? And it is the people opposite the king. And, I mean that in every country. It's like every country has this sense of, what is going to happen. So I think when you have that Leo Aquarius opposition as well, there's a confidence, the people lose confidence or they gain confidence, but it is about that. It's about autonomy. It's about agency. So I think, we're going to see some people topple around the world. And leaders are fighting with leaders. Before it was the people fighting with leaders. Now we're seeing leaders sort of fighting with leaders. So I think this is going to transpire, but it also does involve Neptune and Aries, and it involves Uranus and Gemini. So it's about mobilization, it's about communication, it's about information, it's about being informed as well, I think. And it's going to be new. We're not going to be seeing, I think we're still at a point where we don't really know how this is going to unfold, because we can't even imagine how this could possibly be in a few years. But July is going to be a very pioneering starting point of that.
Exactly. I'm very agree. And during the French Revolution, Jupiter was in Leo, Pluto was in Aquarius, and there was an opposition between them. And what about economically? What do you think about financial matters?
Yes.
Big changes about to come. What do you think about them?
Yeah, I think it's going to be, there's a need for it to be overhauled. There is a need for this whole economic system. It doesn't work anymore, It doesn't work. And you can see this with movies coming out and how people are relating to different things, and newer generations, younger generations coming forward and not subscribing to the old ways of doing things. So there's quite a generation break, I think, in how that happens. And along with that, you've got Chiron at 0 Taurus. So it has this T-square going on. And I think, this is about, a system that's broken, that's going to need rebuilt in quite a different way. It's not that same capitalist versus socialist argument. There needs to be something else. And it doesn't have to be left and right or red and blue and this or that. There can be something else. And I think we haven't quite worked out what that is. Maybe, that's my own, maybe I'm being idealistic, but I think there's some new ways of doing things. And I think the younger generations are the ones that are going to spearhead that.
When we are on the topic, in terms of eclipses, for example, considering the solar eclipse in Leo, how do you think that the effects will be of Jupiter also transiting Leo and being in so close proximity to the south node, what the eclipse is actually in this context, considering that Mars will be in Leo for an extended period, what kind of combined effect might emerge?
Yeah, I think it's quite a positive thing. I know that people see these things as quite, they sometimes people get worried about these things, and I think everything will happen, the good, the bad, in between, everything will happen.
Yeah.
And when we had the solar eclipse in Leo in 2012, sorry, no, I think it was 2008. 2008 we had it. It was very positive, and I mean, of course, 2008 was a very interesting year in terms of
Mm-hmm.
economic, financial breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a lot of interesting things in terms of leadership. I think Obama became president, and but also I think it was about confidence.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and the difference is, of course, we have Pluto in Aquarius now, which makes it a little bit different. So there's a challenge to that, and when that eclipse happens, I think I think you have Mars just going into Cancer, Chiron going into Taurus,
Mm-hmm.
even Venus is in Libra. So you've got quite a few grand crosses. T squares going
Mm-hmm.
on in that eclipse. And they're all at really young, early degrees. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a naivety about what's going to happen. The eclipse, of course, I think is at 20. But I think it's more about confidence. And with Pluto being in Aquarius, I think people are going to feel more confident in leadership. Hope,
Yeah.
well, there is, with Jupiter there will be hope, if not the
Of
reality.
course.
There's going to be, I think, hope is going to be um, a part of that.
Yeah.
Because since all the Pisces and Capricorn stuff in the last 6 years, it's been a
Mm-hmm.
really hard 6 years for people, I think. And this, I think, is a much more brighter
Mm-hmm.
path. I don't see it as necessarily negative. Um, yeah, I think perhaps in July there'll be a few. This month there'll be a few leaders that come under the radar, and then
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
better things come.
And especially the nodes are changing signs on the
Yeah.
27th,
Mm.
and then on the 29th we have a very interesting full moon, isn't it? With Jupiter Pluto position, and it is very much on the chart of US actually. Uh,
Right.
yeah, so we will see how it will work because for the US there is also Mars return on the same degree, 21 Gemini. So it's very interesting time for the US actually, isn't it?
Right. And
Yeah.
I think the eclipse also is very close to Washington in August as well.
Hmm.
And the
Hmm.
north node of that eclipse goes through Turkey as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So being the
Yeah.
eclipse, the north node is quite as important. Yeah, so it's a very interesting couple of months. And even in the last, I mean, I think we say this every day. It's like there's always things are speeding up. They're just going at rapid pace at
Yeah.
the moment, in news, and that affects all of us. And I think what happens is people are exhausted. They're tired, they're
Yeah.
weary, and so the needs. So this is quite energizing, and August
Yeah.
is quite an energizing month, which is, I think, what people need. Maybe after
Yeah.
such a stagnant period.
Yeah. That's very true. But always, as you said, we have hope for the future with Jupiter and Leo, of course. Fingers
Yeah.
crossed.
It's interesting. In the 2008 eclipse, London won the bid for the 2012 Olympics.
Hmm.
And that was pretty much sealed by Prince William. So there was a lot of royalty involved. So it's very Leo. That was on the 2008 Leo eclipse. And of course, I think there may be, and of course, it was also about sports. And of course, sports at the moment is, we've got the World Cup going on, and the world is, but politics have become involved in that. And I think there's a lot of things are drawing to an end,
Yeah.
coming to a head, but they're
Yeah.
rising. There's a lot of energy there, and I think, Yeah, there may be more uprise, I think, and that's the thing with Pluto and Aquarius. People will uprise, they'll
Yeah, yeah,
approach it.
that's true. And of course, for the Russia chart, and of course the midheaven of Vladimir Putin's chart, as well Poland's chart and some other charts are triggered
Mm.
by this full moon on the 29th, and of course the eclipses of August. So we will see, but I think it's
Mm.
gonna be very fast. We will see. We will see
Yeah,
that.
and I think sports may be involved with this, particularly with the Jupiter involved. So you've
Mhm.
got Mars at an early degrees, you know, connecting to all these other planets, and you've got
Yeah.
Jupiter on the Leo. So you've got these
Mm.
sort of, it's a bit of a sporty, or at least a bit of a superhero, something,
Well,
yeah, hopefully,
hopefully,
hopefully, yeah.
hopefully, yes, yes. And what will your program flow will be like in the workshop you will be offering at our astrology school, and what level of students should participate? Will you bring, will you be doing brief reviews of students' charts? Should they bring their charts with them? What do you
Yes,
say?
please. Yes, please. Please bring your charts. I mean, whilst all these planets are doing this, it's really interesting not only to look at, for example, if you have something
Hmm?
around those same degrees of these outer planets or angles, as aspecting, the luminaries, the personal planets, or the aspects, but it's also, what you're, while Saturn, Neptune are in Aries, what's happening to your own Mars,
Yeah.
and what is Mars doing, transiting Mars doing to your own chart. So it is important to look at, whilst these planets change signs, so where is the rulership and how is that affecting each of your charts, So yeah, we're going to do some really good hands-on work, looking at what's happening, how to work with it. It's really, I'm very much an optimist, but also a realist. But so I very much like to look at what's going on and how you can make it work for yourself.
Great, thank you so much. So we are so looking forward to having you and seeing you in our school, of course. And the students are so looking forward. Thank you very
Thank
much
you,
for your
Theo.
coming, for your time. And anyone who wants to attend Wendy's workshop on the 19th of July, please call us and write us from info@astrologyokulu.com. Thank you so much, Wendy.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, and we'll see you very soon.
Very soon.